All right, hey there. Welcome to episode 18 of the Retro Game Club podcast. And joining me is a man who right now is transferring custody of his children to a poor relative, Rob.
Yeah. We are adults now.
Yeah.
Very adult. So we'll have to keep it serious. And
You know that latest college cheating scandal is all right by where I live.
oh really?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a chance I may even know one of the families involved.
That's great. Have you what have you been up to?
Yeah, I pre-ordered a Switch Mini. So actually I didn't, my wife did.
Ooh.
So
What color?
I don't know. So this is more to the story. So I was at work and I just have like an RSS reader up, and I don't log into any personal accounts at work. Just put like an RSS reader on my phone, and I saw a news article that hey, Switch Mini's available for pre-order, right? And I don't have the Amazon app on my phone either because sometimes when I'm out I drink and the Amazon app and on your phone.
Yeah, then you're broke the next day. Yeah.
So I texted my wife and it was like, Nintendo Switch, pre-order, Mini, Switch, pre-order now. Because I was really like sort of terrified this thing was going to sell out. I don't think it has. But just the way Nintendo sells, I mean, anything Nintendo puts their name on sells out. Mm-hmm, so she pre-ordered one for me and I will find out what color it is in September.
Yeah. I think getting this around the holidays will be difficult, but I think your pre-orders will be pretty safe.
Yeah, I think so. I got to figure out what game I'm going to buy for it, because I've already played through Breath of the Wild twice. So I'm probably not going to get that.
I do have some suggestions, but you did say you were not interested in Mario Odyssey. I do have to say that game, I could see if you're just walking by it, it's like, oh, that's Mario in Unreal Engine. But that game has some of the best moments. I'm not saying it's the best Mario game, but I'm saying it has some of the best moments of any Mario game.
Okay. I'm probably going to go with Octopath Traveler. Because
yeah, you can't go wrong with that one.
I'm just
either.
about guaranteed to like that game.
Yeah.
It sort of reminds me, I mean, the screenshots and the artwork look like Bravely Default. I don't know if it actually is like Bravely Default. I'm just saying it looks like that. Regardless, though, it's a Square RPG. It's probably going to be good. So,
and, if you get Bayonetta 2 on the Switch, it comes with Bayonetta 1 for free. Well, quote-unquote free. So that's not a bad buy either. There's so many great games for the Switch. You can't go wrong.
Yeah.
And now there's a used game market, so you could probably get some good deals.
True. And there's Doom 1 and 2, which if they fix it, I will pre-order. I'll not pre-order. I'll buy it. I was afraid they were going to charge like $50. So when I heard about Doom 1 and 2 on the Switch, I'm like, finally, like a good portable version of Doom. I get that you can like probably mod your Vita or PSP to play Doom. Got it. Understood. But there really like hasn't been a good portable version of Doom. There was a Game Boy Advance, I think was the only official Doom port for a portable console. So I was really jazzed about that, and then I saw all this drama about you have to have a Bethesda ID or something, and now maybe that you don't have to have one. I don't know. It's a mess.
Yeah, what they said was, is this in our news or are we going to get to it
later? We didn't get to it. I put it in my things to talk about. So, I get it. I would just use a fake email address. I understand how to give Bethesda a fake email address. It's just a really dumb idea on their part. But what I was relieved, though, is I was positive they were going to charge $30 for each game. But they're only $4.99, which I've purchased Doom a number of times. Whatever, $4.99 to get Doom 1 and Doom 2 again. I will get more than $4.99 of game time out of them.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, those are going to be really great to have on a mobile console. I can just imagine. It's a great game for on an airplane or on your couch or whatever. Because you don't have to play it for hours, and maybe it'll let you enter the cheat codes too. I don't know.
And having it on a legit system, or I guess it just being legit on the system, the portable system, where you don't need to hack it or do anything like that, that's worth $4.99.
Right. Yeah, and I get that I probably can't run custom WADs, or I can't load Chex Quest on it or whatever. Fine,
but that's okay.
It's okay. What about you? You been up to anything good?
Work, and more work. That's about it. I've been saying it for weeks. Still on Days Gone. I'm 30% in now. Uh, I'm I like it. I'm so stubborn. I will finish it. Um, I forgot to make a calendar reminder that Limited Run Games did 3 different Star Wars games. It was gonna be part of our news items, but they're all gone. So it's not news anymore. So I missed those. So I guess that's something I didn't do. And yeah, all next week I'll be traveling for work, so I will have my Vita for RetroArch and my Switch for everything else with me. Um,
So just to
Hanging out in hotels alone.
yeah, which is actually kind of great. So just speaking of Star Wars stuff, like one, you didn't really miss out on good games.
Well, wasn't Shadow of the Empire one?
Yeah, Shadow of the Empire is good, I guess. Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're not terrible games, but I mean, they're just sort of, you know, I guess average games.
I did see the
perhaps?
Game Boy one before it was gone. There was like 8 left, and I was just like, you know what? I need to have some restraint here. Like, I don't need that at all.
Yeah, the thing I'm not sure if I'm going to miss out on or not is, I get these, I subscribe to these email lists about estate sales in the area. And
Mm-hmm.
one really, really close to me has got one of the largest vintage Star Wars collections I've ever seen.
Ooh.
I mean, like, a lot of boxed Empire stuff, Hoth sets and a lot of loose figures, but like a lot of boxed Empire Strikes Back stuff, a lot of boxed Star Wars board games. Boxed laser tag. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the sale right now. It's so
You're
great.
gonna have to link me to this because
Yeah, hold on. Let
I'm
me.
gonna be out that way.
If you're gonna be out here, like, you know, tomorrow through Saturday,
Oh, never mind.
but I
I will
will. I will
barely
send you
miss
that
it.
link right now, and you can put it in the show notes too. If I can put it in the show
Cool.
notes. I have the show notes open. I can put it right in there. But this isn't too far from me, and yeah, it was just crazy how much Star Wars stuff they have. Not in no games though, which is kind of weird because I usually associate someone that has a lot of Star Wars toys with a lot of games.
Hmm.
Looking at it, it is all kind of like otherwise sort of reeks of old people stuff, which I know people will say about my stuff one day. So I'm thinking this is someone who bought a lot of Star Wars stuff when it was new for whatever reason, and just never opened it. They got some box Transformers too, if that's your thing. Or it could be one of
Ooh,
these things where
yeah.
they bought their kids all these things as gifts, and then the kids were terrible and they never got them.
And so many years later, people like us win.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Wanna?
we got a lot of news here. We might want to
Yeah, we'll
get the
get
show
through
on the
some of these.
road.
Some of these I don't have a ton to say about, so that's all right. The first one I do have a lot to say about. Well, not a lot, but some amount to say about. Guy, I'm reading the headline. This is not me. Guy reverse engineers Atari classic pole position with 3D low poly graphics.
What do you have to say?
I think this is an awesome project. That's what I have to say. But I am really envious of this person and their skills because this is a pretty perfect recreation of pole position. And pole position, it's weird. The thing that's weird though is I actually think I like the original graphics better still. As awesome as I think
That's
it is.
that's what I had to say was this is impressive, but the game itself, the pole position in 3D looks like someone's first 3D project ever. But the fact that it's actually pole position is the impressive part.
Right. That it's an accurate recreation of the game, just with different graphics. I'm not sure what system you would see this on. It's sort of like a late Windows 3.1 game is what it looks like to me.
It's virtual racing. It's
No,
what it is.
it's no, because it's not. It doesn't have the giant blocky polygons, right? So it's better
What do you
or
mean?
worse than virtual racing, depending on your point of view.
Yeah.
I think it's a really cool idea, though. I mean, because one thing you could do is you could just be like, well, I'm gonna I'm gonna hack up an Atari 2600 emulator that just upscales the or this is arcade. I'm gonna hack up an emulator that just scales the graphics and makes them look like smooth polygon. And then I'm gonna reverse engineer the game and try and get the mechanics the same as the original.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, it looks like, yeah, someone's first Lightwave 3D project, but did you play this at all? Is it playable? I've only watched
Uh,
the video.
I only watched the video. I always assume nothing will work on Linux. So just sort of on a coincidence here, looks like Digital Foundry. You can search for this. Just posted a comparison video of Doom on Switch to other versions,
Ooh, cool.
and looks perfectly adequate to me. RETROTECHTACULAR, the floppy disk orphaned by Linux. So
I'm so glad you were the one to pronounce that.
I just took it slow. Yeah. So
This is Hackaday.
yep.
Our I think we're pretty much a Hackaday podcast
In some ways,
now.
yeah. Now Linux will still support floppy drives via USB, which is the important note here. Because obviously, if you do retro stuff on Linux, you need USB. You need 3.5-inch drive support to rip your games for DOSBox or whatever. But this is about like actual like floppy drive controller is what's being deprecated out of lack of having enough hardware to keep testing it on.
And you can still install it if you want to.
You could, yeah. I mean, basically at this point, it means they're not going to expressly support it. So it means they have now reserved the right to make a change that breaks it.
Yeah, the guy that maintains the floppy driver or code for Linux no longer does. He's moved on to other things, and I don't know if it was Linus Torvalds that made this announcement
yeah.
or it was just noticed.
Yeah, he didn't make an announcement. He made a comment on a commit, which was in the Linux community. That's the same as an announcement.
Yeah, and I'm sure, for the most part, if he just didn't say anything, no one would even notice. Other than other than plugging in a USB floppy to my phone just to see if it would work. I haven't done that in a long time.
Oh, yeah. See, I do it all the time. Whenever I find like DOS games, at a yard sale or something, I just immediately rip them. I'm not worried about viruses because I don't believe there is a DOS virus that can spread to Linux.
Probably not.
And even
or
so,
even
I would have to like
outside of DOSBox.
like just copying, just ripping the disk isn't going to do that anyways.
No.
So, just every one of these floppy games I get, I usually just rip. And if it's a game I'm interested in keeping, like to because it's a series I collect or something, I keep it. Otherwise, I just throw it in a box that goes out on eBay.
And Jason Scott keeps reminding us floppies are degrading. There's nothing we could do, so back them up. This next one was one I posted, kind of an unusual one for me. It's an Indiegogo project. I mean, right there, you're probably throwing up in your mouth a little bit. But it's to raise money for a documentary being made about the Apple Lisa. It's called Before Macintosh, the Apple Lisa. And it's by David Grealish. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but he is a host of one of my older favorite podcasts, The History of Personal Computing.
Ah, okay.
And so
And he's
that
written some
alone
books,
kind of
right?
makes him qualified for this.
Well, he's done books too. Like he's actually delivered on stuff. I always say with these crowdfunding projects, like, has the person delivered on anything in their life before? And this guy has, so I think it's a fairly low risk investment. I don't believe he's done a video like this, but I'm pretty confident he can pull it off.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a very he's only looking to raise $1,500. For $25 you get it digitally. For $35 you get it digital and on media. And as of recording this episode, there's over 50 days left. So I could definitely see him hitting it. And the Apple Lisa is strange because it was so expensive no one bought it, but it didn't really matter because all it was really for was a dev box for the Mac because the Mac didn't have enough memory to dev for itself. So you needed this workstation. So pretty interesting. Yeah. That'll be in our show notes.
We got one or two. Wait, no, we're down to one story about new motherboards for the Amiga.
Yeah, I had a dupe from two different sites. So, yeah, there is an open source Amiga 1200 board called the 1200 Plus, I think, and someone has just updated it again. You know, like replace the PC MCA or PC card, some people know it by, with an SD card slot, simplified the design. I don't think they really sped it up. I think they just modernized it a little bit.
Yeah, you probably don't want to because it might break the timing in some games.
Again, this one's on Hackaday, and so only our European listeners will be happy about that one because Amiga wasn't that big in the States.
No, I mean I had one, but that's only more evidence that it wasn't big in the States.
Now, this next story, did you already know about?
I did
or
not.
Was this news
This is
to you?
definitely the coolest looking, and referring to the case project we've talked about in a while.
Introducing the C256 Foenix. I think I pronounced that correctly. Foenix. I don't think this thing is brand new. I could be wrong, but it came up on my feed, so I thought it was perfect fit for the show. And what this is a very cool, slick-looking box. It almost looks like a Hayes modem. That has 4 D-sub slots on the front, left and right audio, and I think that's composite video. But it's what they imagine the Commodore 256 would be. And the Commodore 256 is what they think would come after the 128.
Of course it would.
Yeah, yeah, obviously. So it uses 3 small FPGAs to do its magic, and it's a 14 megahertz. It's a 65C816 chip. It's,
Yeah.
so that's not Motorola. That's more like what Apple used,
It
right?
is, yeah. I think it's closer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's same thing Apple IIgs used. That's right. So yeah, it's 8/16-bit.
Right.
If you're looking for a project box, I mean, have I got the thing for you here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably, for gaming, maybe trying to do some, creating a fictional universe that doesn't exist kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
It's not cheap.
like sometimes I think I'll develop a super graphics game so I can live in this fantasy world where the super graphics was released in America and was a big success.
With more than 4 or 5 games, however many it had.
Yeah. Looks like it's hard to get started with, but that hasn't stopped me yet.
$500 if you want it with a mouse and keyboard. So kind of out of my price range.
Yeah, I mean
but
it's for a particular audience. It's not
Totally,
meant to be a consumer
totally.
thing. Let's see. Sega Japan files trademark for Knight's Dream Wheel.
I don't know what to think about this.
Did they say what the trademark is for? This
No.
to me sounds like a Dave & Buster's game.
That is a good guess.
It was filed by their Machines and Appliances division.
So it's either, a Dave & Buster's game or a controller. Which, why would they release a...
They've already released one Knight's controller. So, yeah, I'm gonna guess this is not a game, but we will see. I mean, it'll be a game. I mean, it's not a video game.
Yeah, not for your console or
Yeah,
it's not going to be downloaded to your Switch.
it's gonna be like a pachinko game or something. No, I'm serious. I don't
Please,
even
no.
joke, man.
I know. Funspot, the world's largest video game arcade. So here's an article about just kind of visiting Funspot. It's in where? New Hampshire, right?
Yeah.
It has 600 games, 20 lanes of bowling, bingo, mini golf. But it's pretty much a museum too. It has an original Pong still. A lot of people go there to compete, I guess, or play on certain machines. It's a fun read.
Yeah.
Not this isn't news, but it's just something we really wanted in the show notes.
Yeah, and there's a little, you can link to some videos where you see the place. It is pretty amazing. Have I ever been to New Hampshire? Oh, I don't know. That's bad. I honestly don't know if I've been to New Hampshire.
I have not.
Metal Slug, The Ultimate History.
Yeah. I know you're not a big fan of Metal Slug.
Oh, yeah, it's not my thing.
Yeah, I like it. I love the pixel art. And so, Metal Slug, The Ultimate History, this is on bitmapbooks.co.uk. And it's a book coming out about the history of Metal Slug.
Yep.
And
this publisher's done a lot of video game books. Mm-hmm. And their stuff is usually, it's always pricey, but it's very well received.
And it says this book will be for pre-order in July, and today's the last day of July, so they have till tonight. So we'll see, but I might pick this up. You know, I have that Mega Man 11 book, or not? Is it Mega Man 11? Kind of the history of Mega Man art book. I have the Zelda one, so I could throw this on the stack.
We'll link to some Raspberry Pi 4 benchmarks.
Yes, so I put this up here. This excited me. You can now overclock with, I think, a firmware update your Raspberry Pi 4 to 2 gigahertz, which finally makes your later 3D systems like Dreamcast and N64 play really smoothly, finally, on a Pi. That's the good news. The bad news is half this article is about what's called the silicone lottery, which, if you know how circuit boards are made, which I'm not going to go into in this podcast, you would know that sometimes two exact boards, one will be better than one that was made right before it. And it just happens. And so your Raspberry Pi 4 may totally twitch out at 2 gigahertz, or it may run flawlessly. You probably won't break anything, but you'll just have some twitchiness in your games, or it'll just reboot. But so far, people are saying it's working, and it's worth it. I have been reading that everyone getting Raspberry Pi 4 should get a fan for it anyway, because it does run pretty hot.
Yeah, and of course when you're running games, it's going to be pretty hot too. So I would, even my 3, I put heat sinks on. So I would recommend the same here. I never really get into overclocking, but I am kind of curious about this this Pi 4 because I haven't had great luck building emulation systems on the 3, and I had kind of good luck. Most of my time was spent dealing with controller problems. Maybe they were all self-inflicted. I don't know. But I'm curious to see how this performs.
I'm waiting until they're more widely available. I want to pick up one of the 4 gigabyte versions. This next one is yours.
Yeah, Mega Cat Studios, who is a great Sega Genesis developer, has a new game coming out called Phantom Gear, and there's a Kickstarter. They are only about $600 away from being fully funded. Their goal is only $25,000, and this is like kind of a platform shooter game. I won't call it like Gunstar Heroes, but because you're moving all. I mean, it's not. I mean, Gunstar Heroes
side scrolling.
Yeah, side scrolling. You're shooting stuff. That's about how close it is to Gunstar Heroes. But this studio, all the games I've tried have been pretty good. And like I said, past performance is usually a sign of future performance. And they've launched a few other games through Kickstarter. So I think it's pretty safe to say this game will come out. The lowest price where you get something is $15, where you get the ROM and I assume MP3 download of the soundtrack. And then for $40, you also get a ROM of one of their previous releases. And then $50, you get the physical cartridge.
Oh wow, I didn't know they were gonna do a physical.
Yeah, they do
That's
all this
great.
stuff physical, and they sell. They're always at Midwest Gaming Classic. They always have demos, and you can buy games there. And then for 70, you get some more goodies, and so on and so on, up to you gotta scroll for a while to get to their highest tier.
Yeah, do you get like a character named after you or anything? Like $1,000 buy.
$525. You get exclusive collector box, animated character beside your name in the credits, game cartridge, art book, some badges, posters, stickers, and a physical copy of Coffee Crisis, which is a very, very fun game. So you get 2 games. Anyhow, yeah, I think if you'd like to get indie developed Genesis games, I guess there's nothing other than indie developed Genesis games at this point.
Unless you're in Brazil.
Unless you're in Brazil.
So yeah, Phantom Gear. This game, if this game came out during any part of the Genesis's life, original life, again, not Brazil, because I know it's still alive, this would be one of the best-selling games of all time.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. Yeah.
The music is incredible. The graphics are so charming. Obviously, we haven't played it, but it looks like the gameplay is really tight.
Well, Coffee Crisis for sure, if that ever came out, I think would have been a huge hit. It's, kind of a Streets of Rage or TMNT inspired brawler, and it's a lot of fun. That's of the 2 other games they've done. That one's my favorite.
Are you gonna back this one?
Yeah, I might. I will probably end up
You have 2 weeks to
what I'll
decide.
do is I'll end up going and looking at the page like 10 times, and then one day I'll just back it randomly. I don't know why I do that, but that's usually the way my brain works. So if you like these little arcade cabinets that are probably too short for you, there is a new one coming out, but it's the Star Wars arcade game with apparently the Star Wars flight toggle, like from the original arcade game. And it's got Star Wars, it's an Empire Strikes Back game, and Return of the Jedi. I don't remember the Empire Strikes Back arcade game very well. The Jedi one I remember is sort of based on the indoor forest chase scene. And this is going to be a GameStop exclusive. And it's $500. Yeah, and the interesting thing is I made fun of these cabinets for being too short. I guess GameStop has heard that complaint too, because they include the riser that is not present on the other systems by default. So for the price of $500, you get the cabinet and the riser. And it actually looks, the artwork looks amazing. I think it's really great.
I have one of these original Star Wars arcade cabs, and I was gonna make it into the multi. You could put Empire Strikes Back in there as well. You can't do Return of the Jedi because that's a raster screen, not a vector art screen. But these are known to break easy, meaning the originals.
Yeah.
So, it's almost like I kind of want to just get this instead, but I want to play it first.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't remember the Empire Strike. I think I mentioned before, I don't really remember the Empire Strikes Back game that well. Maybe it just was never out anywhere.
It definitely wasn't out at as many places as the original, but and I don't even remember a sit-down version of it. But it has cool side art, and it has AT-ATs, walking around. And again, these still are very impressive games.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember Return of the Jedi really well, and I remember the original Star Wars really well. Just not the middle one.
Yeah, Return of the Jedi, I don't really need that, but...
Yeah, I think with the riser included, this is a better deal than... I think it's a better deal than I first thought. These are games that, again, are not distributed very often. You pretty much only be able to get them in ROM form for many years. I know these other... I just literally a week or two ago, I talked about getting the Star Wars arcade game in different forms. But
And they break so. I mean, the actual cabinets break so easy because they get so hot in there. And when you get one of the most common mods is to just wire up a fan to the screen. So these things are dying. If you buy an original, you're going to spend more time fixing it than playing it. At least I do. So, yeah.
Almost through news here. Dreamcast plug and play hard drive mod. If you want to disassemble your Dreamcast and put a hard drive in it.
Yeah, and this is a weird hack this guy did because it's not like he's telling you to do it. He's just kind of showing how he did it. You got to solder all these wires yourself, and you have to hack your BIOS as well. It's a really impressive video. I mean, this guy's way smarter than me.
All right. Last but not least, a new Amiga game called JetHunt. So this is you must have an AGA machine, and fast RAM is recommended. So this is a kind of a souped up game, I guess.
Yeah, this is on indieretronews.com, which, I mean, is what our podcast is.
Yeah.
But I don't know about this one. I will not say anything, horrible about it because, I mean, this person's creating a retro game. That's why we're here, But this is Hero. He just created Hero with different graphics, and the reason why Hero was great on the 2600 is because it was so graphically impressive for the 2600. This doesn't do it for, this kind of defeats the purpose to me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it looks neat. It's free, so
yeah, exactly. It's not like he's
not
kickstarting it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I admire anybody who's able to finish a independent game. So
Totally, yeah, totally.
Give that one a try if you're an Amiga fan.
So that is news, right?
Yeah, you want to talk about our game club games?
Yeah. So I did Paperboy. I guess I'll start. So I think if you're listening to this podcast, you've played Paperboy. You are a Paperboy, and you have the arcade version, have a handlebar controller. I played many ports of this for this episode and in my life, and surprisingly, the Master System version was not my favorite. I know it's the favorite of most people because it looks better than the NES port.
Mm-hmm.
Which it does. It absolutely does.
Yeah, it looks better. I don't think it plays better.
No, it just feels too fast. There's just something off about it, but yet it's really impressive. Then I went to the Game Gear version, which I assumed would just be the Master System version. Not even close. Your papers are thrown at like a 60-degree angle compared to every other version in this game. It was not great, but it was super easy. Very interesting. The Game Boy version of this is way better than it should be. It's in my top 3 versions or ports of this that I like the best, and the strange part, what makes this strange is the Game Boy Color version is the worst version. They aren't similar at all.
Yeah,
That
that's
shocked
not surprising.
me. It shocked me. I don't know why. Shockingly, again, the Lynx was really slow. So slow that it just seemed like hokey programming. Like, it's like, come on, guys. The Lynx can do better than this. Almost an insult. I think the most successful version is the NES version. And Yeah, it plays great. It looks good. Yada yada yada. I didn't know there was a Genesis version until this week. I knew there was a Paperboy 2,
Two, yeah. I think
but
this was a fairly rare game. I wonder if it was not released in the U.S. Oh, I should know this.
well,
This could have been like a Europe only release, but I gotta look.
it um it played really well. It was a great port. It actually had some voice in it. Um, but if you have a Genesis, you're not going to be playing Paperboy. And then there's the arcade version, which obviously is the original. This is an Atari game. For its time, it was really impressive. You had a lot of voice in there. The graphics were so smooth. The controls were so smooth. One thing I really didn't notice until this playthrough was that so the object of this game, is to throw papers at the subscribers' houses while you're on your bike, and then without getting killed. And at the end of each stage, you have a bonus round where you're doing jumps and trying to hit targets. Those bonus rounds, the music sounds exactly like Marble Madness, which makes sense because they came out around the same time. It's the same hardware, but to the point where I didn't look this up because why would we do any do any background work on this stuff, any research? But it must have been the same guy doing the audio because it was almost the same song.
So according to my own website, Paperboy for the Sega Genesis was a 1992 release that originally retailed for $29.99.
That's not a bad price. Yeah, I mean,
So there you
it's
go.
really impressive on Genesis. So, any thoughts on this?
I played the NES version because that is always the one I end up enjoying the most because it is so easy. Like I could just start it. I haven't played it in a year or two at least, and I could play through till the end of the game, no problem. It's just like a much easier version of the game. I know the controls aren't exactly like the arcade, and other home versions I think have much more accurate controls. But like whoever ported this just decided to make it, easy, and that's great to me. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because it's not. I mean, they don't need your quarters anymore. They already got your money. So, why make it so hard?
yeah, I was never any good at the arcade version of this game, so pretty much died constantly at that. And it's on a number of arcade collections. And I know it doesn't really count because it's not the same game, but there is a Paperboy on Nintendo 64 that is a load of fun.
Oh wow, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I mean it's not the original game at all,
Yeah.
but
Is it called
it's real-
Paperboy 64?
I think it is called Paperboy. They might have just called it Paperboy, but obviously everyone would call it Paperboy 64. And I mean the graphics are kind of dated now, but it was a really good, recreation of not a recreation, but like modernization of the game for its time. Like again, it looks very dated because it's the Nintendo 64 big polygon graphics, but they really improved. I thought they really did a good job, bringing it to a new era. It has like boss fights and stuff even.
Oh wow, that's strange.
Streets that are like it's not just like the streets where you're actually kind of riding around like a whole environment. A little bit of aiming. I mean, there's like weird levels where you're like delivering papers to people who live in boat houses, and it's a really well done idea. Again, looks horrible today, but it's still fun.
That's cool. Yeah. Oh wow, I'll definitely check that one out. I played the arcade port, or I guess it's not port, the arcade version of this time, and you really tell it's night and day. It's nice to have that luxury now. Where before, when you played it on NES, when you were younger, when you were a kid, you thought it looked exactly like the arcade because you didn't have the arcade version right there to compare it against, and I don't know if that's good or bad, but it was nice to compare and contrast this one. What was yours?
Oh, Town and Country Surf Designs for NES. So, as a kid and this game came out, I didn't really realize that there was like a brand of clothing because I didn't hang around surfer dudes. But there was this period in the 80s where like surf culture and clothing was kind of a big deal. And this was sort of a attack onto it. So this was it was marketed by LJN. I don't know if LJN was the developer. It's a very kind of shallow game because it's kind of just got two modes. It's got skateboarding and surfing, and that's pretty much the entire game. These two modes. And the thing is, like, I thought about this after playing California games because this is like two of the things in California games. It has roller skating instead of skateboarding. But T&C Surf Designs, I actually think makes both the surfing and skateboarding games a lot more fun than their California games equivalent. The skateboarding game in particular, I really, really enjoy. So you're kind of just going through, like, you're skateboarding down a street, and it's a street that is, much like the world Paperboy, it's not a very well-maintained street, and there's a lot of things on the street that want to kill you. But there's, like, giant potholes and, like, coins to collect and, people chucking frisbees at you to try and knock you down. But then there's also, like, rails and things to jump over and different, like, stunts and tricks you can try to do. Right, so you can just kind of, like, play through just to get through the level as quickly as you can. Or you can try and rack up points by, doing tricks on the level as well.
The surfing in this I thought was strange.
Yeah, it's strange. It's a little bit easier to control than the California games, I thought.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I mostly just played the skateboarding on this.
Yeah. It just took me a while to figure out what to do in the surfing. And it's funny because I and a few of my friends had this when we were kids. And I remember being great at it, and I was just horrible at it this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially the surfing.
Yes. I do like that a long play video of the game on YouTube is 10 minutes.
I know, I saw it. I watched that at lunch the other day.
Like, here's the entire game, and they're about right. It's definitely not a deep game. To me, this was like a great weekend rental game. Maybe you don't want to own it, but it's definitely worth picking up at Blockbuster for the weekend because it's got about a weekend of content in it.
I think it sold so well just because they were a clothing company and
yeah,
because it's not like your friend had it and you're like, oh my god, that game was so fun, I need to own it.
Yeah, and again, like the kind of surf culture thing that was going on in the 80s. That's maybe why it seems a little bit dated.
There was no T&C Surf Design 64, unfortunately.
No, but that would be a great game.
Well, when you want to get into MIPS 4000 programming for the Nintendo 64, that's your project.
Yeah. The problem is like in Nintendo 64 era, 80s surf culture kind of stuff was really, really dated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now it's sort of nostalgic, but then it would have been kind of a joke.
Should we get into some feedback?
Yeah, and after feedback, we will talk about our next games. Jimmy G from the Pie Factory podcast. They're also at Midwest Gaming Classic every year. In the vendor section, I don't. They have like some like Atari 700 stuff set up. Really great guys. So if you're at Midwest Gaming Classic, make sure you go and say hi. And he responds to a number of topics here. Not an official topic, but games that are better on the 2600 than on a more powerful system.
I should mention, since you're not on Facebook, I asked that question. We talked about it last episode. I asked this question on Facebook. That's why we got a few of these answers. I'll try to do a better job at talking about what's going to be on our podcast before you're talking about it on our podcast, I guess.
Sure.
Anyway,
it's a good topic. I thought it was funny that multiple people wrote about this. I thought they were just really thought it was a cool topic. But he nominates Space Invaders, Super Breakout, and Astro Blast. And I kind of agree with all those, except maybe Astro Blast. I mean, Astro Blast looks a lot better on the Intellivision, but as he notes, on the Atari you can play with a paddle controller, which I guess would be a pretty big improvement. Mm-hmm. wanted to call out, give my regards to Broad Street, a Paul McCartney game. I don't remember this one.
No, neither do I.
Either he's an expert on this, or he did some very, very...
Well, it's a C64, which I never had. Yeah, so...
Yeah, I don't know this one at all, man. This looks... It's another one of these games that looks like it was maybe something else originally, and then they got the Paul McCartney license. I don't know. And Paperboy, he said, recently learned about an Easter egg where there's the two guys fighting on the street, and if you hit one of them with a newspaper, sometimes the Paperboy will yell body blow or uppercut, like in Punch-Out. And then I'll link to a video of it, which I guess I probably saw someone do that in the arcade. Although I don't...
Yeah, yeah, when I was playing it this time, all the stuff that was going on in the streets, especially this fighting, I was like, where does this kid live?
Yeah.
What is going on? And cars are trying to run him down. Yeah, this video is cool that Jimmy sent us. It's really the test screen from the arcade version of Paperboy, so it goes through all the audio cuts. And while I was eating at my desk today, this is what I watched.
Yeah, I find myself watching some pretty dumb stuff at lunch. But yeah, anyways, be sure to go out and subscribe to the Pie Factory podcast as well. It's on iTunes. And yeah, they cover a lot of stuff. So yeah, they just, last episode, they got some, last episode's a news episode. They do talk about Robotron on the 7800 recently, too, which is a darn good port of that game. This one's short, so I'll just get it real quick. Games that are better on the 2600 from Justin, Jumpman and Jumpman Jr.
Yeah, I don't... Are those on other systems, too? They have to be, right?
I believe they were... I believe so. I think they were a computer game originally, I thought.
This
yeah,
is,
Atari, they were a computer game first.
Okay.
And yeah, a lot of console games are better than computer games in that era because they play faster on the console.
And then Joe writes us, for Popstar games, Captain California just looks weird as it does the prequel.
Yo Bro. Yeah, I forgot about Yo Bro because I believe that one does not feature Beach Boys music, if I remember correctly, which is why I did not call it out.
So that's the prequel?
The Yo Bro was a kart game. In Camp California was a CD game, and I believe Camp California is the same characters that were in Yo Bro. But now looking at it, Yo Bro has chiptune versions of Beach Boys songs. So it's been a really long time since I played Yo Bro, because I did not get into it. In Camp California I own, in Yo Bro I don't. Speaking of beach, surfer culture stuff in the 80s, this is a pretty prime example.
Yeah, yeah. And then he goes on to say the Journey arcade game looks pretty amusing. He loves the oversized digital photo band members. Yes, those are very amusing and it really unique. You don't see many arcade games that look like that. TNC Surf Designs seems to ride the wave of inexplicable popularity of surf culture and lingo in the late 80s, early 90s. Yeah, that's literally what the game is.
Yeah, I by the way, Joe, I did not read this email ahead of time when I made all my comments. It's just we're definitely on the same wavelength. That there was a lot of weird kind of like envying of surfer culture in the 80s. In the 90s replaced it with, I guess, Seattle culture, and then extreme games culture, and then rave culture. The 90s kind of went through a few different phases.
Did you really like Paperboy? Some might not like the bike controls, which has the same yoke as the Atari Star Wars arcade cab. But he really liked it. Yeah, it's really difficult and pretty addictive. And the best part is the sound, all the quips from the announcer and the Paperboy's one-liners. And yeah, it's just a really funny game. And thank you for that email, and sorry about butchering it. This has been a long podcast for us because we've lost internet connection, and yeah, it's been a. We're gonna get through this one, I promise.
Yeah. Because we did the interview that you probably heard, which we did. We forgot to introduce that was our feature of the week or episode.
We'll do that in a minute.
We'll do that. So, majors. Talks about Five Below, which of course I'm always happy to talk about. My favorite places to shop again are the Target clearance section in Five Below, and he wants to mention that it's also a great place to get cheap PS3 controllers. If you just want to use, if you're looking for the casing and you want to put a custom PCB in or something. And then he mentions that they're test marketing a new store called 10 Below because, I guess, inflation. I'm not interested in 10 Below. I only want 5 Below. He has sort of a question for us here. He says, you mentioned that you get a game a few hours every day. Most of his gaming time is like on Sundays and a couple evenings. But the past few weeks, he's been playing a lot more alone because he's had more free time just due to lack of like events. But he feels guilty because he thinks he should really be socializing with friends. And he wants to know if either of us feel guilty about gaming solo.
It's literally what I do. I don't game with other people.
Very strongly, not even a little.
Yeah.
I guess part of it maybe it depends like on your work and your personality, but if you're I won't call myself an introvert, but I certainly have some tendencies. And when you're at work all day, like 9 or 10 hours with people, especially if you have like an open office layout and you're 2 feet away from all your coworkers all day, gaming alone is the greatest thing ever. So it's certainly nice to just be, alone for a little while. That's
and also, yeah, I mean, I kind of went out and, I don't know about partied, but definitely socialized after work every day from, when I was like 15 or 16 till 30-something. And now I'm in my early 40s, and I just, I think I need a break from from all that, and yeah.
Yeah. Also, I mostly play RPGs, so, but I get the point is like doing that instead of, doing stuff with friends. So, he's still turned off on the $100 price tag for the TG16, so he's glad that we bought them so we can review them first before he makes a decision on buying them. And just sort of in general, he's never been a big fan of the mini consoles other than the Intellivision one because he was on a big kind of 70s kick at the time. I've gone through 70s moods myself sometimes, even though I wasn't alive for the entire decade. Ninja Warriors. It was on 3 screens in the arcade.
Yeah, I said 2 last time. And you know what? I remember being so impressed with how many screens they had, and I thought it was just 2 side by side. So, I guess it was 3. I haven't seen one in person in the longest time. In fact, the last time I think I saw one was at Galloping Ghost, and I haven't been there in over a year.
Yeah.
So,
and on sort of a related note, they have other 3-screen games like some of the Darius games have 3-screen support, and I never pronounced this right, but Zunada did the music for Ninja Warriors and of course most other Taito games. He's going to add the word bezel to his list of things to take a drink for every time it gets mentioned on the podcast.
Because I pronounce it wrong.
Yeah, so it's Midwest Gaming Classic and bezel are your 2 things to what's the correct way to pronounce it? Is it
Bezel. Or sorry, bezel. Bezel is the wrong way. So
I've been saying it right. Bezel. Okay.
Yes.
Can't believe you've never heard of the Settlers of Catan. Which I guess not. I know what it is. I've never played it. And again, like I said, I have coworkers that have that kind of stuff set up all the time. And sort of encourages people when they go to different gaming events to check out the tabletop and board game rooms. And yeah, most of the classic gaming events now seem to have a room that's dedicated to, I guess, what I'll call adult board games, even though that sounds terrible.
Yes.
I guess it just depends. Like I said, I'm mostly aware of these games because of my office, just because of the people that have these things going. And they had like a Risk game going at one point too, which I'm surprised no one died in real life over that. Popstar Games. Yeah, he was a big fan of Omicron. Which,
yeah. That was the David Bowie game. He was really into it because it mixed up fighting and exploration and music. And he wanted on PC, CD, and Dreamcast, though the Dreamcast was really hard to read the text because, it was on a CRT. But yeah, it is on Steam, and I guess it was free for a while. That sucks because I paid for mine. I had no idea it was free.
I like his idea here about having a 2D fighter based on pop singers. So you could like settle the, Britney versus Christina Aguilera or Kesha debate, or have TLC against NSYNC in a fighting, tag team battle game.
Didn't MTV do this? Celebrity?
Yeah. Oh, Celebrity. Yeah, the claymation
Celebrity
thing.
Fight
Celebrity Deathmatch.
Club,
And then there was a
Deathmatch,
game based on that we didn't mention.
Journey Arcade Trivia. Side note to the Journey Arcade game discussion we had. The cab had a cassette tape in it that played the actual music for the specific stage. I did not know that. And then we talked about BBSs a few episodes ago, and he wrote in, and I answered some of the questions. He had a funny story where he was working at KB Toys, and another employee was talking about Walrus games, and he had no idea what he was talking about for the longest time, and finally he realized he was talking about Wares, and Wares was, illegal pirated software on BBSs back in the day, so he thought that was funny that the guy didn't know how to pronounce it at all, and that he wanted to know if I used the Draw or Ansinator, I can never pronounce that one, for my BBS artwork. And I used the Draw. I used it so much that I had every ASCII character shortcut memorized, and I also had the color codes memorized. Side note, I also had all the color codes in Renegade BBS software memorized.
Oh.
Because I am a dork.
Yeah. And then about our Game Club games, also comments that everybody had TNC Surf Design even though it wasn't very good. So therefore it must have been really cheap at some point, which is probably true. That's a good explanation. Also, the cover art on it was great, so maybe some people got hooked on that. Not a big fan of Paperboy, he says. He said the dirt course, the kind of like training course at the end was the most fun part, but unfortunately you have to play through the whole level to get to that.
I remember distinctly the first time I ever played this in the arcade. An older kid played it after me, and he showed me a trick that made the rest of the game fun. And this might be the it might only work for the arcade version.
Okay.
You get the first house, you get them.
Yeah,
so
first house, and you just skip the rest.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, that's
so
that's kind of that's how I play it. I get the first house.
And then break a bunch of windows after that.
Yeah, make sure you get the first house, though. But then you end up with 2 houses on the next stage, so you at least have a backup if you miss. And he was in a... Majors also notes that he was like an assistant Paperboy. Because the Paperboy in his neighborhood was a friend, and he was the only person that owned an NES, I guess. Probably because he hit the paper route. Did you not figure that out? So... They would all help so he would get his paper route done faster, and then they could play NES games. I like that.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for those emails.
Yeah, thank you. What games do you want to talk about next time?
I'm going to keep it at least one more week going with the summer theme and doing Kings of the Beach on the NES.
All right. I'm going to do one that is relevant to my current life. I'm... trying to teach my oldest kid how to drive, so I'm going to go with Hard Drivin', which reminds me a lot of teaching a teenager to drive a car.
And I guess we did things a bit out of order this week. Our topic of the week is interviewing Rob Loach, a developer for LibRetro and RetroArch, which we talk about on every single episode, and I use to do most of my gaming with. And so, here you go. Hi, yes, and we are here with Rob Loach from, I guess, LibRetro and RetroArch?
Yes. Welcome. Welcome to me. Thank you, Retro Game Club, for having me. My name is Rob Loach. I'm a director of technology at Kalamuna, and we make websites for socially impactful agencies and institutions through open source. But I'm also a part of the LibRetro team.
So how did you get involved with that?
Yeah, so LibRetro has always been something that's interested me. Growing up, I didn't have access to a Nintendo at all, so I got all of my Nintendo goodness through RetroArch, which was remarkable. So I always had exposure to it, but I was always scared of getting involved with programming for it or contributing, just because it was a very scary org, and I had that fear behind me. But probably 2 or 3 years ago, I started talking with the crew, contributing code, pushing up a few fixes, maintaining the databases and the thumbnails, and it's been pretty remarkable how far it has come since.
Oh, I mean, so how we got connected actually is I found a bug in the database and a bug in the thumbnails, and you answered both of them. And I submit bugs on GitHub all the time. I don't know if that's good or annoying, and I don't mean just with LibRetro, but with just everything. And you are literally the second person, and I mean, I've been on GitHub since it feels like the beginning. Second person ever to, yeah.
That's good to hear. Like not many people know how, it's actually quite easy to get something to appear on the RetroArch menu. It can seem very daunting. So I'm so happy that you've submitted issues and gotten involved, because the more people involved, the more help we can get, the better it becomes. So thank you.
And I want to say I'm really impressed by the fact you've removed more code than you've added. That's actually a sign of
how did you get those stats? That's hilarious.
Is that just on GitHub you saw?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the stats. I was just sort of curious what number of lines of code, and it says 21,312 added, 35,778 removed.
It's always a programmer's dream to remove more code than they add.
Yeah, that's great. So, I mean, speaking of which, what kind of skill set did you have getting into this, or were you kind of learning on the way?
How did I get involved on the development side? So I went through university and college for programming. They were teaching me assembly, but I didn't really enjoy assembly. We were just talking about assembly earlier. It went right over my head. So I learned, my base is C#. And
okay.
Coming into RetroArch, it is C. And I saw a lot of similarities between C and C#. So that's where I learned C and found that it was actually pretty slick to work with. I like how definitive it is and strict. Yeah. So like JavaScript and all of those other languages, they're very, very loosey-goosey. And I really enjoyed the strictness behind C coming over to RetroArch.
Is C# your go-to when you...
No, actually. I think I started programming way back in the day in Visual Basic, and then headed over to C#, learned C and C++, learned JavaScript.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. It has a bad.
It's
Bad feel to it.
don't hate the band, hate the fans,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It's like the way that I think of it is that everything is just a tool. How you use it is up to you. And if it does the job that you're looking to do, then that's great. If it's not, either get really good at using a crappy hammer or get a new hammer.
Yes. Yo, what are like the current big challenges you're working on, or what are the most difficult things you're looking for help with?
Yeah, so RetroArch and LibRetro, there's a few new really cool projects coming up. And we definitely need help testing and figuring out bug fixes and doing everything with them. Definitely on the testing front. The two big projects that are going on right now. First is RetroArch heading to Steam, which is pretty exciting. So right now, if you're to install RetroArch on your machine, you would head to RetroArch.com and then head to the downloads page or go through your repos if you're on Linux. But I think it's going to be in a month or two, it should be heading to Steam, either late August or September. Hopefully. And it'll just be on Windows for now, but we're aiming to get it onto Linux and Mac later on. But you'd be able to install RetroArch directly through Steam, which would be really cool. The other big project that's going on right now is disk loading, the disk project. So RetroArch right now, you need to have a file on your disk drive to load. So for instance, if you're loading up a 32X game, you would need a .image file to load to start the game up. But with the disk project, you could insert a 32X disk directly into your CD drive and have RetroArch load the game directly through your disk drive.
And it'll also back it up for you if you like, right?
Yeah, you can dump the game as well.
Right there. That's an interesting feature. So in terms of if someone wanted to help, I have some more questions about that actually. But if someone wanted to help with that, is it a matter of like get latest from GitHub and test it in open issues?
Yeah. You. I believe if you head over to RetroArch.com, the download section, there's going to be some information about getting the nightly build, and that's the one that has the disk loading in there.
Yeah, because I think I'd certainly be willing to try a few systems. How are you accounting for? I just looked at the article like a week ago, so I saw what systems you had listed. But how do you account for things like Dreamcast, where maybe the host CD drive won't even read the disk?
Yeah, the goal is to get it across all of the cores. I would personally love it to have access to like on SD cards even. Like just have a SD card with like a Super Nintendo ROM or something, and you just insert it and then it loads the ROM from the card automatically. That would be really cool. But the cores that have it right now are just PlayStation, Saturn, Genesis Plus GX, 4DO, and there's an audio CD loader as well.
So the ones that are strictly like CD, not like the GD, whatever Dreamcast uses, or
yeah. So the goal is to have it across the majority of the cores that have discs.
You guys have been getting a lot of publicity with that, and it's funny because every time this feature is mentioned, then people talk about how now they're not going to buy Polymega.
Yeah, those hardware loaders are incredible. I want to get one so bad. Whenever I look at the price tag, though, I kind of shy away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know people say that, but I gotta say they probably aren't the people that were going to buy a Polymega anyways.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Like the Polymega buyers are probably the same people buying the what was that $500 or $600 Super Nintendo?
The analog.
The analog NT, right? It's the same kind of group. Like, I'm not criticizing them. It's just they want the physical hardware. They don't want to maybe mess with emulators at all. That's what I'm kind of thinking. They'd rather just spend the money than figure out how to configure.
Is that one of the FPGA boards?
Yeah, I want to say yes.
Well, I thought
It's
the analog Nintendo,
or
my
does it
understanding
actually
was
have
real hardware, but the
Yeah.
Super Nintendo one was FPGA.
Yeah, I'm looking at one day getting the Mister, which is the FPGA one that mimics each different processor. But I mean, I'm really happy with RetroArch right now. By the way, I am known to always mispronounce it as RetroArch.
Is it
So,
RetroArch? I don't even know, and I'm part of the team.
oh my gosh, I'm so happy. That was going to be my next question for you. So, I've heard it pronounced mostly RetroArch, but then someone else on YouTube, I always said RetroArch just because I'd never heard it pronounced out loud before. I said it out loud once, and that kind of stuck with me. And then hundreds of people on YouTube I've seen say RetroArch, and then one other say RetroArch, which validated me. That's all I needed.
Tomato, tomato.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so what were your biggest challenges currently now? Like, is there anything upcoming that maybe you haven't talked about much yet, or any ideas you have that maybe you're still kind of planning out just because it's so daunting?
Yeah, there are a few features from RetroArch that RetroArch that I've been really excited about that I don't think many people actually know about. And they do need people to go in and test them more rigorously. I've been experimenting a lot lately with the NetPlay integration. So what you can do is you can load up a game, host a game, and then have anyone join this game. So a couple weeks ago, I was playing Micro Mages, which is a Nintendo game that just came out recently. I think it came out last year. But it has support for up to 4 players in a Nintendo Entertainment System game, which kind of blows my mind. And I was able to play 3 players over NetPlay through RetroArch, which is kind of awesome. The menu for it is pretty new, so it definitely needs more people to test it and see how it's going. Related to that is the Discord integration, which came out, I think, last release. But this is really neat. If you join the LibRetro Discord and run RetroArch, it'll make announcements that you have a NetPlay session going on directly in the NetPlay channel. So if you're on the LibRetro Discord, you can click on NetPlay, and then there will be announcements on the left, and you can directly from Discord click Ask to Join and join the NetPlay session directly through Discord.
And then is there Twitch integration?
I'm not. I don't think so.
Because I was just gonna say, because then if people saw a game started, then they can start watching it too.
Oh,
you know?
yes. So there is there is some streaming settings and recording settings in RetroArch, and you can stream it directly from RetroArch up to Twitch. I think it might work with YouTube too, but I haven't tested that. But those are definitely features that I haven't seen many people submit bug reports on, which means it either works perfectly or not many people are using it.
Well, you and I have been texting each other trying to just get the time. It's actually going to be a topic of the episode one time. NetPlay is.
Oh,
we've
cool.
been talking about it for over a month. It's just getting the stars to align where when we actually have time to meet up, it's not recording the podcast. It's doing NetPlay.
Yeah. I've never been huge into online gaming precisely because like finding time to coordinate with people I know is really hard. I guess, on a Discord channel, just other people that are on the channel, you obviously don't know them in real life, or you might, but most of you probably don't. And just fire up, hey, let's go play some Dungeon Explorer or something.
Yeah, for sure. And even in the RetroArch nav menu, if you go to the NetPlay menu directly in the main menu, there's a refresh rooms list, and that gives you a whole list of people who are currently playing. And when you try to launch a game, it'll try to find it in your playlists and join them directly. Yeah, so even if you have that difficulty coordinating, you can just join a random session, have some fun.
There's a lot of crazy things I just learned about. I forget it if I was reading about them or you emailed them to me. There's kind of a trophy system in RetroArch, right? Where, like collect 100 coins in this level, or I'm trying to think of other examples.
Yeah. So there's it integrates with RetroAchievements.org.
That's it.
And it's a whole database of achievements that can be gotten in your old school games. So like Mario, for instance, I think there's an achievement for getting the first raccoon suit or something. So once you get it, it gives you an achievement. It pops up in RetroArch when you're playing. It shows you got an achievement, and then it syncs with your RetroAchievements.org account.
So is it just like a memory watcher, and it just knows for that ROM to look for that event?
Yeah, it's pretty brilliant. You can you can scrub for the memory that changes, and then upload your own achievements on there as well.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with this site. It's pretty cool. I'm kind of surprised I missed out on this. What I always find sad is when I get like some big RPG and I'm playing on PlayStation 4 and I get some achievement which basically amounts to like you just played the game for X number of hours, right? Like all you had to do to get this achievement was just play the game for 4 hours to get to this part of the game. And then I see like 15% of people have achieved it. I'm like, oh, I feel bad for the game now.
Yeah, you think you've achieved something phenomenal, and then you go on this site and you see that literally everyone who's played it has also achieved that. And then yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I'm looking at some of the Phantasy Star ones right now, and these are all... Some of them are hard, but a lot of them are just, I went into the first house.
Yeah. Yeah, in the RetroArch settings under achievements, there's also a hardcore mode. Make sure you enable that, because it means that you can't load a previous state, which makes it a bit more difficult to get there. So yeah, enable that whenever you're playing. Go get on that hardcore mode.
Another tip and I think I don't know if this is fixed yet because it wasn't really a bug, but any tip for a newer RetroArch, even not newer, set it to save your game saves every 20 seconds instead of on exit.
Oh, how do you do that?
It's somewhere in configure here. While we're talking, I'll load up RetroArch. Because, I mean, I had my computer freeze 3 times in East 4, so I've done the exact same grinding over and over again.
Yeah. And that's a game with a lot of grinding.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
It's very worth it. Yeah, you guys keep going while I look for... Here, saving... No, not there.
All right, so I was kind of curious, like, RetroArch is on a lot of different platforms, at least a dozen. What's kind of like the dream platform that it hasn't been ported to yet?
So what I've been really excited about, we're talking about like different platforms and different places to run it, to have all of your games. LACA is a system that comes to mind. It's built upon LibRelect, which pretty much gives you Kodi, which is a media center.
Yeah.
Just enough OS for Kodi, which is their tagline. But LACA is built upon LibRelect, and it just launches directly into RetroArch. So LACA has been ported to a number of different boards. It just got support for Raspberry Pi 4, which is really exciting. I would like to see it running in the console using like ASCII characters. That'd be really cool, because then you could
That would be cool.
then you could play RetroArch on your server while you're SSH'd into it. For what reason? Just because.
Yep.
I would also like to
we've
see
had
it.
stories about Game Boy at the command line and stuff
Yes.
like that.
I would also like to see it broadcasted through an apartment building. Like everyone's lights turn on and off depending on which pixel is on. That's something
Yeah.
I'd like to
Yeah.
see that happen.
Yeah, I guess it'd be kind of a cheat if you did the console version, but like you ported Z Machine to it first or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems a little too easy.
Yeah, but
So,
there's
yeah,
a whole bunch of different boards that are. If you grab Laka, you just stick it on an SD card, put it into your hardware, and it boots directly into the system, and it has all of the cores installed out of the box.
We had Locke as a topic, but it was one of our first ones, so not many people probably remember that one.
I want to see it on a toaster too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, anything that
Doom's
Doom's been
already
ported
there.
to.
Yeah.
Was Doom on a toaster?
Yeah.
It was on a microwave.
Microwave,
Or,
that's it,
or in a
yes.
refrigerator, too, an
Yeah.
LG refrigerator.
Oh my god!
So
Yeah.
if you go to configure and then saving, you could set it to save every 10 seconds instead of save on exit. Because sometimes you don't actually exit, and then even if though you saved your game, it's not there. But because of the bug I put in, that was supposed in recent releases. I'm at 177 now, so I don't know what the newest one, but that's supposed to be 20 seconds by default going forward anyway.
So sticking with like weird things to port RetroArch to. I know at this point we don't know anything about the hardware for like the TurboGrafx Mini or like the Sega Genesis Mini, but if you were to like gamble, what do you say is like the over under on how long before someone has cracked those and is running RetroArch on them?
I wouldn't be surprised if it would be pretty quick. Like I was honestly blown away at how far the Switch port has come. Yeah, the Switch came out and then like give it a couple months and then RetroArch was on there.
Yeah, now Android's on Switch, so I was actually going to try that out because I heard you don't actually have to hack your Switch for it to work, because I'd really not want to have to do that. But yeah, since Android's on there, you could just download it from the Play Store, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're good to go. I don't know which one would run better, the Switch version or the Android version on Switch.
Yeah, you're probably better off running it on like a dedicated. I don't know. Maybe. You know what? I have no opinion. I said I have to try it.
No opinion.
I'm curious, like with the Switch Mini, I assume everything will get ported to that eventually too, unless Nintendo's done something to try and make it unhackable.
But other RetroArch news lately was the speaking of portables, the Vita 3D acceleration what's it called, bounty got to over $1,000.
Wow.
And so someone picked that up and is doing 3D acceleration, hardware acceleration within the Vita. Is that the best way to kind of get, if you're not going to program, is that kind of the best way to give back, to create a bounty? And for listeners that don't know, bounties are, if you create a bug and no one's fixing it, then you could throw some money on whoever fixes the bug, and other people can contribute as well, showing their support. Do you think that's the best way to support LibRetro, or?
Yeah, and that really does make a big impact for people. There was another bounty that was just filled was, when you scan your games, they end up with a whole bunch of different tags and flags at the end of them. It's like Golden Axe, USA, Europe release. Someone just picked up the bounty to clean up the playlist sanitization so that you can choose whether or not to show those flags. So the bounty source is a great way to incentivize people to get involved with RetroArch. Another method is the Patreon. LibRetro has a Patreon, And the proceeds that go into the LibRetro Patreon, they often go to the cores that are behind LibRetro. Play, which is a PS2 emulator, was just ported to LibRetro, and LibRetro contributes back to the Play retro Patreon. So it's really good to see that that economy go on. But yeah, so Bounty Source, Patreon, getting on the Discord and talking with people, getting engagement happening, jumping on the GitHubs, sending issues. So Rob, your pestering on the GitHub issue queue is definitely definitely appreciated.
Well,
porting
I do
it even.
plan on.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go on.
Yeah, porting LibRetro to different platforms, making feature requests. Just all of the engagement is really encouraging for the whole community.
And then if someone wanted to contribute code-wise, you said pretty much learn C.
Not necessarily, actually. Yeah, code-wise, outside of just the RetroArch code. So LibRetro it's an API. Since it's an API, there's a number of different ways to query it. So even though it is itself written in C, you can use pretty much any language that can call a C library. So people have worked on a Rust LibRetro core that was used for a Game Boy emulator, I think.
And so that's not frowned upon. It's not like you're
No.
not like Linus Torvalds all about
Yeah. Yeah,
scolding people and
yeah, exactly.
I mean, just looking at GitHub, it's about 30% C++ already. About close to 70% C, about 30% C++, and then a little like sprinkling of Objective-C and
Yeah.
other. I thought it was like the big other bucket. Shell, PHP. So a lot of this is probably just, build scripts, the shell in part at least.
Yeah, Kivutar, who's been a part of the LibRetro team for a long time, he made a Go front end for LibRetro, so you can run if you're excited about Golang, if you want to try out a different front end than RetroArch. There is it's called Ludo, and it's written in Go, so that just shows you how
man.
extensible the API is.
I'm a gopher, so you just
Well, there you go.
man,
You'll
it's
be
just- yeah.
working on Ludo in no time.
Yeah. I feel like, 40% of people who are trying to learn a new programming language write an emulator front end with it. I've
It's their
definitely
hello
done that.
world.
Yeah, I've definitely done that too. Not with Go, but when trying to learn something new, absolutely.
Is there anything else with LibRetro or RetroArch or anything else you're working on that you wanted to plug or talk about or highlight?
Yeah. So RetroArch 178, it's coming out pretty soon. It has a number of different features. Definitely want people to test it out more. It allows hiding of the sublabels, a bunch of graphic driver updates for Direct3D, GL Core, Vulkan support, fixes in Metal as well. The menu widgets are really, really cool. If you haven't checked those out, definitely try them out. It gives you nice little notifications at the bottom of your screen, nice progress bars when you're downloading content.
Nice.
Hopefully we'll be able to use them for achievements as well, to have it show like the achievement badge when you get an achievement. Be really cool.
You mentioned the graphic drivers. One thing I know that's been worked on or is currently being worked on is let's say you have defaulted all your Nintendo stuff to use OpenGL and all your N64 stuff to use Vulkan. I mean, you'd probably do that backwards since there's no N64 stuff that does it. But anyway, right now, if you try to do that, it crashes your system unless you completely. What do you have to? You have to use something like Launchbox, and then it loads a pre-config every time you use one of those cores. And it works great. You know, it's a great workaround. But it's not a big deal because I know someone is and has been working on it. I didn't know if this was going to get into 1.78. If you knew anything about that.
Yeah, hopefully that gets fixed up. You've been involved in the queues for it.
Yes, I have, but not for a while.
Yeah.
Because I figured, like, after a while, if I'm not fixing it myself, then I, you know, I just leave the other people alone.
Yeah.
We're all busy, so and it's not like it's someone's day job. So
Yep. Yeah, there is. I did see a whole bunch of fixes for the ozone menu as well. For people who don't know, XMB is the default menu driver in RetroArch, and you can change that to have a different user interface. You just head over to the driver section and then menu. Ozone is pretty new, and it looks a lot like the Switch interface, which is kind of cool.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that is cool. I've always just used the PS3 looking one.
You should check out.
Which works great.
Yeah, Ozone is pretty slick though. I've been using it for probably the past month, and I like it a lot. Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
I was wanting to ask you guys, outside of assembly and Golang, what are your favorite programming languages?
I'll start. Yeah, I mean, I'm really into Go, obviously. I started in Visual Basic 3, and then I spent a long time in PHP. I know that's sometimes a four-letter word. But again, you know, hate the fans, not the band. And yeah, I really like C++ as well. I mean, you know, Lua, Bash, really anything except for JavaScript. I actually thought about, just as the snarkiest project you could possibly imagine, I've already created a fork of Chromium, and I wanted to create a PHP, what's it called? I'm forgetting English right now. Interpreter in it, so you could use PHP instead of JavaScript on the web. Just like, it's so useless, but just to say, like, there you go.
So
Learn
so
one language.
You could run WordPress in the browser then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. See, I personally
Worst
hate,
of both worlds.
So I hate PHP because I've had to like implement and fix a lot of really terrible WordPress sites over the years. So that taught me to hate PHP. But like, I mean, I started programming on like Apple II Basic in the early days, which is kind of fun, but I would not want to go back to it. And like, my first professional job was a mix of Visual Basic 5 and Visual C++ must have been 4 at the time. It was all in Windows NT. And like over the years, like Visual Basic 6 became like my favorite language, just to do like a quick and dirty app. But you know, clearly that's not a viable thing to work on. So then I moved to Java for a few years, which I actually like Java a lot. That's now my go-to language when I need to write something quick. And that's another one where I guess as Rob would say here, you know, hate the fans instead of the band. Like Java's a really great language, but the community around it has sort of evolved to one that I would say radically over-engineers most problems. Like you can write really simple Java code that looks like C code, but most Java programs don't look like that. Which is
feel like
unfortunate.
every developer tries to overcomplicate something.
Yeah. The longer I've been programming, the more I try to undercomplicate now. I try to write just the simplest code that can possibly work. And then I did C# development for about 5 or 6 years professionally, and I like the tooling a lot. The language isn't really all that different than Java. I've written a couple of ROM hacking tools in C# just because it was an easy language to do UIs in, and I'm not a real good UI designer. So like I would say Java is definitely my go-to language right now, and I like assembly as a hobby. Atari 2600 Basic is another fun one. I don't mean like the thing you develop games with. I mean the Atari 2600 Basic cartridge. We can only write 9 lines of code. That's a lot of fun to play with too. I mean that 100% seriously.
I forgot to give a shout out to Turbo Pascal 7. I think it was 7.
Oh yeah.
That's what all the BBSs were written in back in the day. So I had to hack in that, and then I was so surprised, when I got in the professional world that no one uses Pascal. I'm like, great, my skill is useless.
Yes, I mean I can introduce you to one software company that does, but.
So you're going to be making the Pascal port of the LibRetro API, is what you're saying?
No, I'm excited that there's some gophers in there. What I'm not excited about is I've been putting off installing Discord this whole time. I've just used Slack, and
Well, if you're familiar with Slack, Discord is pretty much the same thing.
I just didn't want another client. You know what I mean? It's but
I was trying to
think it's
avoid
time.
everything. I had IRC. That's really all you need.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
great. Thank you so much for spending time with us, and thank you so much for. I mean, we both use RetroArch probably daily, so thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. And again, to all of our listeners, make sure you go on RetroArch.com, click the donate link, because there's a number of ways you can donate. We mentioned Patreon, we mentioned bounties. You can also just, if you happen to have Bitcoins laying around, they will gladly accept them. And then LibrePay, which I've not used before, is on there too if you want to donate a few bucks. I think
Download the
testing
nightly.
testing is the most thankless job of any open source project. So that's actually what I would encourage you to do too if you're interested, because I think it's harder. I think it's much easier to find people that want to write code than people that want to test code on open source projects.
Yep. And join the Discord as well, the LibRetro Discord. On Sunday, I will be playing NetPlay with people all over the Discord channel and server. So definitely hop on there, and we can have a game of Mario Bros. or Paperboy. I played some Paperboy the other day.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's our game of the episode.
I didn't get past the first level. I got all of my subscriptions were canceled, and I felt like killing myself.
That's how the arcade game goes for sure.
Yeah. Well, all right. Thank you so much, and
Thank you.
yeah, hope to have you on again another time.
Yeah, here, Rob. Thank you so much for having me, and I'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks. Have a good one.
Bye now.
All right, so usual stuff, go ahead and tell a friend or family member about the podcast. And we do have a Facebook page, and thank you to Zach for helping us keep that page running.
Email at retrogameclub.net. Write us. Next week, I will be picking the SIO winner, so you could win that SD card upgrade for your PlayStation, or you will brick your PlayStation trying to install it.
Yes. Make sure you have a backup PlayStation before trying to install it.
And big thanks for Rob for being on this podcast and not being able to pronounce RetroArch just like I can.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, again, make sure you back the project, just any way you can. Testing is free if you don't want to donate money. If you just want to get the nightly build and try out Lunar on Sega CD on it or something, right? Which I was actually thinking about doing after here. Give it a whirl and send them feedback, even if it's just, hey, I tried Lunar and it works perfectly. Really, what you should do is you should try like an FMV game or something that might really trip it up.
Exactly. Yep.
The CD
or
support
NetPlay.
or something. Yeah. Yeah, they haven't announced PC Engine CD support yet, but there are a few games that like have data tracks, like multiple data tracks, and I'm kind of wondering if those are going to break. All right, so I guess that's everything. So thanks for listening.
Yeah, see you guys next time.